everyone. Welcome to the Teach Middle East podcast. My name is Leisa Grace, and today I have Gemma Stow with me on the podcast. I met Gemma virtually on LinkedIn, just via posts and shares and comments and things like that. That's how you meet people nowadays. But what's fantastic about Gemma is that she is a self-promotion expert. Yes, you heard right. Her job is helping companies develop their leaders, especially their female leaders, and helping people to promote themselves more expertly. And she also has her own podcast, which is called No More Hiding, aptly named, right? No More Hiding podcast. And her aim is to close that gap for female leaders.
You are listening to the Teach Middle East podcast, connecting, developing, and empowering educators.
So welcome, Gemma. It's so good to have you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so pleased to be here. It's really exciting.
Fabulous. Now, I know when we talk about self-promotion expert, people tend to wonder if it's a good or a bad thing. What reactions have you gotten when you introduce yourself as a self-promotion expert?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I guess the thing is, for me, I often talk about self-promotion not being a dirty word because it has that negative kind of reputation, right? So when I talk to people and say, oh, I love self-promotion, I help women promote themselves, and they're like, oh, they think, well, I don't like that. It's really uncomfortable and awkward and cringy and, all those things. Arrogance comes up quite a lot, actually, which is really interesting. But yeah, for me, I'm really passionate about it because as women especially, we just don't do it enough and we don't own our expertise and share and showcase our talent enough. And we just hope and pray people will notice. And that doesn't always happen. So that's why I'm passionate about it.
Fabulous. I got that reaction when I told my friend I was actually interviewing a self-promotion expert. She's like, what is that? And why do you need one? I said, that is exactly why you need one. If you don't know the importance of self-promotion and how that can propel you, then you definitely need to listen to this podcast. So for everybody who's listening to this podcast today, I'm sure you're going to get some gems and be able to navigate the world of self-promotion even better. Now, our audience is made up of educators. And we're going to talk predominantly today to the female teachers. Men, we're not leaving you out, but, give us a little space today to talk to the women who are running our classrooms and our schools across the region and across the world. Why, Gemma? Why should we strive to be more visible in the workplace, in schools, as women teachers?
I find it so important. And I've got a lot of female friends who are teachers as well. So knowing I was coming on your podcast, your amazing podcast, I did reach out to them to see how they felt about visibility. But, I think it's so important, especially with teaching, because not often people understand what goes into it. A lot of things happen behind the scenes when it comes to teaching as well. And, sometimes I know in this country, there's a lot of negativity as well that teachers have to face and a lot of judgment and people making decisions about them, being observed, that kind of thing. And I think visibility, being able to have some control over that is really important in terms of, getting that message across to people. Like, this is what teaching's about. This is why I do what I do, why I'm passionate. It's not all about having long holidays, all that kind of stuff that people throw out there, right? So I think, it's so important for career progression that people know who you are, what you stand for, why you do what you do, and opportunities that come from that. There's so many opportunities that come from being more visible and being able to talk about your strengths and share how good you are at what you do, right? We don't do that.
I love the fact that you said why you do what you do, because the why is so important. And as teachers, we're very good at knowing our why. But what do you think is stopping us? What's stopping female teachers, especially from taking that step to becoming more visible?
I think, there's so much research out there, and I did my own research as well, which is interesting. I know you mentioned men at the beginning, and actually a lot of men don't like self-promotion either. But in my research, I found that even if they don't like it, they tend to do it anyway, whereas women think, I'm not going to bother and just hold back. So in terms of what's stopping women from doing it, especially teachers, I think there's already a lot of judgment around anyway. So, worrying what people are going to think of you, For me, I think that perfectionist might come in there as well. I mean, a lot of women who have got, have you heard, what I mean by perfectionism, and people putting those incredibly high standards on themselves. And then when they don't reach them, then beating themselves up about it as well. I think that's something that can really get in the way of women wanting to push themselves and be more visible and do things differently. And also, that kind of fear of rejection, fear of people saying, why are you doing this? Why are you speaking up? Why are you being more visible? Just get on with the day job. That's what you're doing it for. And I think there's a lot to be said to embrace that, really, just to kind of change those attitudes and perspectives. So yeah, there's lots of different reasons why women hold back. Waiting for the right time is another big one, overthinking things and I'll do it later, or I'll just give myself some time to get more experience, or I've got to get that qualification before I can go for that promotion, that kind of thing. And it just all gets in the way, and we can often self-sabotage, I think, when it comes to these kind of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think also when it comes to self-promotion in schools, it really is not always viewed positively. I think things might be changing, but a lot of people think, especially women, that you should just quietly carry on with the job. And if there is anybody to be recognized, somebody will eventually find you and recognize you. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, I see it all the time in different industries as well as education, but women just... we're taught, aren't we, at an early age, like head down, work hard, that's how you'll get success. And, it's not always the case. We sometimes have to, stick our head up above the parapet and say, I'm here and this is what I'm doing, because otherwise you can wait and wait for people to notice you and get recognised and then rewarded. And what if it doesn't happen? It's sometimes nice to take a little bit of control back and have some impact on your own career progression as well. And this is a really good way to do that.
So, now we're encouraging teachers from this podcast to really put their heads above the parapet. What if they do so and then it gets chopped off a little bit? And that's a very harsh way of putting it. But what happens if they get shut down or something really negative is said about them? How do they handle that? Because that could be devastating.
Absolutely devastating. And now I've got a really bad visual of when you see people chopping heads off. But a great analogy, because it's so true, We do that. We do put our head above the parapet, and people don't like it because it's not what we normally do. They're not used to it. And you know what? I'm not saying go out there and, throw yourself under a train for your career. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it's time for you to recognise your own strengths and your own passions and how good you are at teaching and the results that you have. I know for teachers, and I know I work in a lot of public sector, it's about impact. And a lot of people say to me, yeah, but I'm not interested in talking about myself. I'm not interested in my progression in that way. I'm interested in the impact I make, which, for teachers is huge. That's why you get into it generally, isn't it? So you see people grow and learn and develop. But, the thing is, visibility equals impact. You can have a bigger impact if you take that step into being a bit more visible as well. So, yeah.
Explain that a little bit more. Visibility equals impact. I've not heard that before.
Okay.
Why'd you say that?
Well, I think a lot of people look at it as though it's selfish and you're doing it for your own good. And so when I work with people, say in teaching or any public sector, police, probation, housing, that kind of thing, they're often like, it's not about me. I don't do this job for the money. I don't do the job for myself. I do it to help others. And so when I talk to them about being more visible, they see it as being really selfish. And actually, it's not, because the more visible you are, the bigger impact you can have. And role modeling is one big thing, especially for teachers as well. You are a role model, always. So how can you role model to your students that it's okay to big yourself up? It's okay to own it, that you're great at this specific thing and that you're going to go far with it. I think being a role model is hugely important as well. So what I mean by that is the impact can be greater. If impact's your driver and your motivation,
right,
being more visible can only help that.
I get that. So that nicely leads me into, for your school, because you want to make an impact.
Yeah.
What are the benefits to your school or maybe to your organization of you becoming more visible with the work that you're doing?
Well, I think it can only be a positive thing. And I've seen it work so well where organizations, they're judged on their reputation, aren't they, of the impact that they make on a bigger scale. So are schools and academies. So, if you're out there promoting yourself and the great work that you're doing and the great work your students are doing, then you're promoting the school and the organization at the same time. So it's a win-win for everybody. Yeah. And that opens up opportunities for the organization, like funding or, different things they could get awards or something they can get involved with. But you're putting them on the map when you put yourself on the map. And I think that's really important too. So everybody can win from that.
That just gave me an idea. I mean, it ties in so nicely because here in the Middle East, and particularly here in the United Arab Emirates, the majority of the schools, apart from the schools that are attended by local students, are privately owned schools, privately run schools. And they do have a drive to up their enrollment. And I can see how if the staff within the school are more visible and they're promoting themselves a lot more, then by a spin-off, the school gets to be promoted a lot more, which could impact its enrollment figures. So it makes a lot of sense in this context.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of individuals will say, oh, well, my company might not be happy with that. If I start talking about things, I'm like, well, just double check, because actually it can be a huge positive for the company and organization as well. So absolutely, you're right.
Yeah. What are some of the individual benefits? I know we touched on some earlier, but a little bit more of the individual benefits of self-promoting, because I think people need a lot of convincing. The fact is, we've been taught, I nearly want to say indoctrinated, but I'm scared of using such a strong word, about not promoting yourself, not being so prideful, not saying I'm great, because it then means that if you fail, you're going to fail in a bigger way. And everybody is going to say, well, she said she was that good. And now she's failed. I wonder what that's about. How is it beneficial to promote yourself? Give me a little bit more. I really want some more. I want to convince some more people, I think.
Do you want me to convince you, Leisa? I think that's what it is, right?
I think it is.
Well, you know what? It's so interesting that you said, you almost did the full cycle of self-promotion leads to putting yourself out there, leads to getting it wrong, and then you fail. And that's one of the things that stops us, right? That we're worried that it's all going to go wrong and we're going to look like we've fallen flat on our face and everyone's going to go, yeah, see, knew she couldn't. And women do this all the time. We kind of do the little story before we've even done it. It's really interesting. But I think for me, self-promotion's on so many different levels, right? So it's not just about you standing on a box going, look at me, everybody, I'm so amazing. Because it's not. And we all know those people that do that, right? You've done one thing, they've done it 10 times better. And It's like, oh God, and it's exhausting, but we don't want to be like that. That kind of behavior puts us off. And that's why we feel like it's cringy. That's why we feel uncomfortable, why it's arrogant, because we don't want people to judge us like that. Because ultimately we want to belong, right? We want to fit in. That's who we are. So if we push ourselves out and do something a little different, then people are going to start saying, oh, what's she doing? But actually, you can do it in different ways. It can be so subtle. So, you doing your podcast is a form of self-promotion to me, right?
Okay.
You tell me, what's the motivation behind the podcast for you?
Well, it's a part of my role with Teach Middle East Magazine is to host the podcast. But here's the crazy thing, which I think my listeners don't know. If it wasn't for my job, I probably wouldn't do it. Okay. And I fought with my business development manager for a long time to say, do people really want to hear my voice? Do they really? And so doing it is really getting me out of my comfort zone. And what's fabulous is we've had thousands of listeners, which makes me like, oh my God, thousands of people have sat with me in their ear for the better part of an hour and they didn't switch me off. I'm in shock. So it's helping me boost my own self-confidence.
There you go. And that's what it's about. That's what it can be about, being more visible and promoting yourself and doing it in a way that feels good. I talk to my clients all the time, I know everyone says push yourself out your comfort zone, jump in at the deep end, but actually there's ways that you can look within your strengths. If you're really good at writing, say, then find some way you can do more writing, like blogs or articles or industry specific stuff, or, even for your own organization, can you write on their behalf and big them up? If you're really good at speaking, doing a podcast like you clearly are, and I know you've pushed yourself out your comfort zone, you just said, but people want to hear from you. So this to me is being visible. We've connected because of it. So, it's about networking. It's about building relationships. Networking is one of the best ways to raise your profile and self-promote in a way that feels comfortable and can actually be fun. I promise. It can be fun to talk about yourself and talk about what you do and what you're passionate about and meet other people that get it, and they want to too.
I think you've touched something. So you're going to help me to help our listeners a little bit more, right?
Okay.
So they've listened to this point in the podcast, which is fabulous. So they've gone in 20 some odd minutes, right? And they haven't switched us off, which is great. We appreciate you guys. You're fabulous.
Yes, you.
Now, they're convinced to start a bit of self-promotion.
Good.
Where do they begin?
So that's it. They start with looking at what they're good at already, right? I mean, you know what? As women, we don't do this enough either. There'll be guys out there too who feel the same, but we don't focus on our strengths. If I speak to women and say, tell me your top 3 strengths, and they'd be like, I don't know, I'm not sure, can't say, what would it be? And actually, that's your biggest asset. So it's really good to start there. What are you really good at? Like I said before, maybe it's writing, speaking, maybe it's networking, relationship building, whatever it is. Really dig deep on that and do more of it rather than trying to do something that feels so uncomfortable that's going to push you way beyond your comfort zone, that's going to really stretch you and be really scary. Then, that you're not going to do it. The motivation's not going to be there. You're going to keep putting it off and off and off, unless in your situation, you get asked to do it as part of your job, right? And you did, but you did it and you're making such a success of it. So I'd say if you're going to go off and start promoting yourself a little bit more, start with what you're good at. And if you're not sure what that is, then maybe just start networking a little bit and start practicing talking about yourself.
Where can they network?
LinkedIn, best place, I think. It's like, because you meet so many people. You'll probably have education events that you can go to. I know you've got an event as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we have one coming up at the end of August.
Yeah, looks amazing. So it's about, getting out there and putting yourself, you don't have to go and meet hundreds of people. You can just meet a couple and that can open up doors and opportunities.
What's the first step on LinkedIn? Like what should they do? They've come on the platform. It's all, oh my God, going so fast. What can they do? What's the first step? Do they just say, hi, I'm looking to connect? What can they do?
They can go find people. So maybe give yourself a list of top 10 people or industries or topics that you're interested in, and then whack that in the search bar and see what comes up. And then if people come up, check them out. If they sound interesting, request a connection, drop them a message saying, this is what I do. Saw your profile, saw your post, thought it was really interesting. It'd be great to connect. That's it. Just like you would if you're at an event or, in a restaurant or whatever, you're going, hi, just meeting somebody and saying, this is what I do. What do you do? And, having that connection. That's how you could do it. Have top 10 people, go out there, smash it.
Yeah. A lot of people are scared of social media, though.
I know, that's true. I don't often see LinkedIn as social media. Do you? I see it as something a bit different.
I like LinkedIn. I don't think it's social media in the way that people view social media, although it might be becoming a little bit like that. But I still find it to be a fabulous place to meet people. But teachers in particular are very, they don't really like putting themselves on social media because obviously they don't want to be found by the parents and they don't want to be found by their students. How can they do it in a way that's not offensive or cringy?
I think maybe reach out to different teachers then, in different schools, different organizations, connect that way. Maybe find someone who does a similar role to you. If you're doing something as well as the teaching, if you've got like a unique part that you're responsible for, a specialism or something like that, and reach out to others that are doing similar jobs to you and connect that way and share good practice. That's always a great place to start, somewhere that's, solid foundation where you can connect at the same level, I think is always a really good thing. But just by starting there, you never know where it's going to go. And I think that's the thing. We often tell ourselves that it's all going to go wrong or it's not going to work out, when actually we've not tried it. And I think sometimes you just got to go for it and try it and reach out to people.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. Just trying. Here are a couple of quick fire questions.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah. So here's my first one. Have you seen anyone who's done their self-promotion horribly wrong? What did they do?
Oh my God, that is a good question. Me, probably. Because you know what? Because I've got it wrong so many times. And at first, that was hard. Because the whole reason I do this no more hiding and working with women is because I was her. You know, I had a business before this and it was an education business, and we worked with young people who were going to be excluded from mainstream. They came to us instead. And I was hiding behind the brand. And I got all my staff to go out and do the scary things like networking and presenting and selling, you know, all the fundamental things to business. And I was hiding. And I realized that now looking back. So that's why I do what I do now, because I was underestimating my capability. I guess I've never seen anyone do it really wrong, because I just think everybody's amazing for trying. Some people do video, maybe video's not for them, or, you know, some people write and maybe that's not for them. So it's just about trying new things and finding out what suits you. And you can tell that from feedback, right? So be open and don't criticize yourself, you know, just have fun with it. Be curious, experiment. That's all you can do, I think. And if it goes wrong, then we don't fail, do we? We win or we learn. So,
yeah. Okay. So my next quick question is, what's one self-promotion tactic or strategy that you saw and thought, whoa, that was amazing?
I think for me, let me think. I think it's just when you see people shine and you can see the passion coming through, when they've almost put aside any worries about judgment, any worries about what people think. I'm on Instagram and I do see a lot of medical staff now kind of raising their profile. They've got personal branding. So like surgeons, doctors, gynecologists, that kind of thing. And I follow them. And I think a lot of young people and now turning to social media for advice and support. And when you see people really owning it on there and challenging things that maybe are not quite right advice, and, you know, that's when I see self-promotion and visibility really working well, when it's having that massive impact. So
that's good. I never thought about that. So instead of sitting back and allowing misinformation to prevail, these professionals are actually countering that misinformation. I really like that.
I think there's a space for teachers to do that too. You know, after talking to my friends about it here in the UK, one of the biggest problems is the perception and the media and how they often are really negative about teachers. And then that trickles down and then parents become negative about teachers. And it's so unfair, because they're ultimately doing one of the hardest jobs ever. So I think there's a gap. I think there's a gap there in social media for teachers to step up and start, you know, putting it right and teaching people what really goes on, you know, in the education system, and the work and the effort and the hours that they put in as well to planning and marking and all those kind of things, behind the scenes stuff. I think it'd be really interesting for people to see.
No, you're right. I think there's a group of teachers on Twitter with Edu Twitter, and they're really starting to showcase what goes on in education. And as much as I love LinkedIn and I big up LinkedIn all the time, I think Twitter for educators is phenomenal. The ability to connect with like-minded educators is really, really great. And that, I think, I would encourage my listeners to get onto Twitter, go on the hashtags, you know, and could be EdChat, could be Edu Twitter. In the UAE, we have Collab UAE, Teach Middle East. These are all hashtags that are trending in the UAE and the Middle East. And you will find hundreds of educators who are there that you can follow and connect with. Okay, next question for you.
Okay.
What's the next thing that you plan to do as a part of your self-promotion? Could be online or offline.
Ooh. I can't wait to get back to doing some more face-to-face training, because that I just started before lockdown, started going out to companies, because I mean, this company I've got now is virtual. I've always worked with clients online anyway, but I just started getting back into face-to-face training, and then lockdown happened. So it all went back virtual. So I've just been chatting to someone locally who wants me to come in and run a face-to-face event. So the first thing she said to me was, what do you need from me? And I was thinking, well, actually, I probably need some clothes, because being online all the time, it's been easy just to wear my leggings and just be, your little box. That's all they can see of me. So I'm really excited to do that. And that's great, because you get out there and you meet people, and there's nothing more powerful than meeting other people and connecting that way. So really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that we can get face-to-face in the new academic year. We're hoping to have a face-to-face conference in October, and we're keeping everything crossed that will actually work, because it's been, a tough 18 months, I want to say, and we really want to get back in touch, live face-to-face, meeting people, saying hi's. We probably won't shake hands anymore, but we'll definitely be face-to-face. Gemma, it's been fabulous talking to you. Thank you so much. If teachers, or anyone else really for that matter, would love to touch base with you and to get some more tips and strategies or work with you, how could they do that?
Well, if you're not on LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn. So if you are there, come and connect with me. And I'd love to hear from you, any feedback about our chat today. So message me over there, or my website, which is gemmastow.com. And you can find lots of things there. And I do have, it's like a quiz that you can download. It's free, and you can almost test yourself to see how good your personal branding and visibility is. So you can go through that. And it's good, because it shows that you might be doing more than you think you are. And there might be some gaps that you could do more too. So it's worth checking out for sure.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Gemma. It's been a real pleasure having you on the podcast today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been amazing. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Teach Middle East podcast. Visit our website, teachmiddleeast.com, and follow us on social media. The links are in the show notes.